Fantastic. Hello, today I'm joined by my guest, Michael Connolly of MRI. How are you doing, Michael?
Yeah, very good. Thanks, David. Thanks for having me on the call.
It's an absolute pleasure. It's an absolute pleasure. We always end up talking CRMs with you because that is very much what you guys do excellently. And you're a very, very safe pair of hands for businesses of all different sizes. And I suppose that's the point that we're heading into. It's all about scaling, and we see a lot of M&A activity going on in the industry press. You open it every morning, somebody's acquired somebody. So clearly scaling is something that we all need to work into our businesses if our vision is to grow. And if what we're using in order to manage those businesses on a day-to-day cannot grow with us, it can be an issue. So from your point of view, what specific features do you feel that an agent should be looking for in their CRM to enable them to sort of scale more smoothly?
Yeah, I think it's important to understand who you're working with, the types of different clients that they work with. Like you said, do they have the background in working with independents, let's say with maybe 5 or 6 different users, all the way up to larger enterprise agents, so that they've got the proof in the pudding that they can deal with clients of different sizes. Um, but that's most commonly where we do start having conversations with agents in the market. They're using a solution, they've got to a certain point with it, and they're just feeling that their growth and their scalability is being held back. So there's certain things that you can look for in the system. For example, what are the features around setting up multiple offices, your reports within the solution that you're using. So can you run reports across the different departments? Are you finding that a lot of your time is being spent of actually manually collecting these types of reports, collecting data from different sources, having to have meetings reliant on notes that you've taken rather than actually what's in your system and having a clear view of that? But it can be something as simple as, do you have a nice dashboard on the screen that you're looking on? Do you have a graph showing you performance, how we performed this month compared to last month, etc.? So there's multiple different things, but it is important for those agents that are thinking about where are we going to be in 5 years' time, thinking about scalability. And like you talked about, mergers and acquisitions from both sides. So if you are looking to acquire agents in the future and go down that path, are you using a solution that makes the onboarding of that agency a smooth process? Well, I say smooth process, it is always difficult moving people from one system to another.
Yeah.
But do you have a system that can cope with that? Do you have a system that can allow you to monitor the performance of that new agent that you've brought on? Because I imagine a big thing when you acquire a new agency is actually tracking the performance, especially within the first 12 months, just to see how that transition period is going. And also the same side, you'll have agents that are potentially looking to sell in the next 5 years. So how can you make yourself more marketable to an acquiring company? Do you have the stats and figures? And I go back to reporting. I think it's a big thing in this conversation around takeovers. Can you provide that proof nice and easily? Can you show that in graphs and figures?
Yeah.
Or is it difficult to get that information over to someone? Because it's something that an acquiring agent will look at, the solutions that you have in play within the business. It's something that is taken into consideration.
That reporting is just immensely important. So it's not only kind of the mainstay of a Monday morning meeting, but you don't necessarily want to wake up 3 months down the line or wait for quarterly reviews to sort of work out that one branch has gone a bit off the boil.
Yeah.
Particularly if it's a new acquisition, you want to be able to spot that sooner. But also you need a system that reports everything on with the same metrics that you can access, because if you leave it open to the interpretation of individual branch managers to tell you what they think the problem is, very
Yeah.
often those figures that you can see from those branch reports are able to highlight sort of issues much, much sooner than they even see them coming. And you're right, the painful side of mergers and acquisitions is the proof. It's that whole due diligence process. And when that agent, if you've got one, the plenty of good ones out there that manage those transactions, turn around and say, right, well, we need to start proving what your pipelines look like, what your fall through rates are, where your fees are coming from, how many landlords you've got, what have you got managed, what's your managed income versus your, you know, maintenance income, whatever it may be. To be able to have that at a touch of a button is a godsend. And I know a lot of people who probably don't keep all those up-to-date records in their CRM and say, we know our CRM could do that, but
Yeah.
we don't use it. But really, so it's a lesson to us all, really, to sort of get on top of that and keep it up to date.
I'd go one step further, David, even like you said, at the touch of a button, but be even better if you can automate those reports and you can automate who it's sent to. So that is something, yeah, for those of you that are looking for a new system, ask around that. What's the automation within the solution? What's the automation around the reports? Because ideally, you don't have to do anything. You just go in, you said it perfectly there, that Monday morning meeting, do you have everything that you need on your desk for that meeting in your solution? Nice and clear so that you can conduct that meeting and have all the information rather than being reliant on what someone knows in their head or what someone's noted down on pen and paper. And it is something big as well of when we're looking at implementing these systems, because like you rightly say, sometimes you're using a solution and you're only using maybe 40% of it. There's actually 60% that you don't even know exists. So it's all about training and getting in into, well, also the buy-in from the rest of the team. So your day-to-day sales and lettings negotiators, are they using the system in the right way? Are they entering in all their the notes from those phone calls, the emails? Are those records going into the system so that you've got a track of that? Because it's also very important. We've got to remember that people leave organizations, people go on holiday. So if your vendor calls for an update and wants to know where they are with their chain, you've got to be able to clearly see that in all the conversations that have happened. If that's on someone's phone and they're away on holiday and you're unable to get in contact with them, you're left in a difficult situation. You're looking a bit silly to that vendor. So yeah, what can we do to help with that situation?
So we're going to get deep now and talk about oneness here, but we always speak when it comes to sort of CRM systems. It's that old adage that it's the one kind of universal point of truth within the business, and those records are therefore really sort of important. But that somehow conflicts with the myriad of different solutions that we end up using. So yes, you've got one source of truth, but I've got 7 different applications that I'm using. And hitherto it's always been very much a matter of, well, I come out of my CRM, I need to log back into another app and I need to sort of use this and whatever it may be. And it could be anything from sort of, you know, things that help you with your tenant management systems, inventories. It can be anything, payment systems, and you know, being able to get all of these things talking to each other, I think has always been a struggle. You guys do that particularly well. What's your view on that, particularly when you've got multiple solutions in a business, but you're also then scaling at the same time?
Yeah, I think MRI's view on it has always been a case of open and connected. It's led by clients. Who do you work with? Who do you like the look of in the market? Because what we realize is we have a great all-round solution for your CRM, for that one source of truth. But there are specialist suppliers out there that can do wonderful things, and we want to be part of that conversation rather than seen as the tech provider that doesn't want to get involved and just wants to have a siloed system where you've got to, like you said, have multiple tabs open at the same time, copy and paste information over. And that's not what efficiency and not what we're looking to drive with the system. It's all about time savings. How much time are you spending on your existing processes? What can we give you back? And then where can you spend that time? So if you do find that you're using a system where you're repeating the information over and over again, it might be worth considering other options out there. And it also is probably a reason why you're being held back in exploring the market and looking at other prop tech providers that can do these great things that I mentioned. I'm hesitant to name names because I will get messages from people that don't
From the
shout
people you
out.
leave out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So don't want to get in trouble. But there are some brilliant providers, and we know it's a big pain for people. And going back to the conversation around acquisitions, if you're being acquired by let's say a larger agent, and they've got these different solutions that can potentially integrate into your system. If your system doesn't then integrate back to those solutions, then you are losing that benefit. So it's
So it can make you all the more saleable, really, can't it?
yeah, yeah, exactly. If you've got a solution that allows you to grow, that allows you to work with other providers, then you have a clear path of how you can grow the portfolio, how you can, we were talking about it when we spoke the other day, but those traditional agents where you're looking for different ways of getting your leaflets out and your brochures out, the old-fashioned way of door knocking.
Yeah.
There's other solutions out there where you can perhaps be a little bit smarter and a little bit more targeted. So if you don't have the solution in place that can work with those types of providers, and yeah, it might be worth having a chat with us.
So my business is growing. I'm taking on multiple new staff members. I need to get them integrated into our team and using our systems. How does the actual system, so how can like a CRM system, if you like, help me with getting those new staff members kind of onboarded into the company?
Yeah, and that's probably the importance of having a cloud-based solution as well. So that it's nice and easy for you. You want to have a system in place where you're not having to reach out to your provider every single time you have to bring on a new member of staff with an agency. I think it's important to give the client that self-service so that as soon as someone starts, you can set them up with a new user, and you can quickly be able to set up branches in the system. Another thing that's important also is where we talk about these acquisitions, not all the time are you merging the two brands together. So you might keep the original brand of that agent that you're acquiring.
Absolutely, yeah.
So having the ability to have multiple different brands in one system, so that you can still see the reports across the entire business, and also being able to control what people can see and do. Because if you're acquiring one agent, you might not necessarily be opening up their portfolio to other branches within your organization. So you don't want people seeing landlord details from the acquired agent. So having that control over permission rights is vital as well. So there's a few things to consider, but branding, I think, is a big one. Email templates, people have different ways of working. Having still the ability to control the individuality of that business that you've acquired is vital.
No, so that's really interesting because I think very often what you're buying in a business is an established brand. So you won't want to trash that and just throw it away. You're going to be trading. Every business has a distinct voice and a distinct look and feel. Some are older, more mature businesses. Some are younger, so they can get away with being a bit more cheeky, would I say? So yeah, your branding and that whole marketing process needs to sort of match. So that's actually one good point. So I suppose my last two questions were two sides of the same coin, and I think we've already touched on it. And maybe if we bring them together to look at it again. But yeah, I was going to ask you, so having a good CRM and having good systems in place, how does that help somebody that's looking to acquire that company? But again, the flip side of that is, how do you make it a business of particularly easy acquisition? And I think it all, we've touched on it before. Your records need to be up to date. Your reports need to be good. But there is that sense that the transparency of the information that you can offer somebody that's coming in makes it all the more attractive.
Yeah, exactly. And so something that we recently added into the system, as soon as you log in, you can just simply see your targets. How much is expected of you this month? Viewings, offers, properties sold, tenancies. See that as soon as you log in on your homepage. If you're a new acquired business, you can see clearly what's expected of you as an individual negotiator or a branch manager, so that you know what's expected from you and the team. But the reason why is, I think the key points for a business that's going out and acquiring new agents, the key points is the ease of adding new agencies onto your existing system. And if you do want to have a holistic view of the entire organization, then it is vital that that process can be as smooth as possible. I say as smooth as possible because, like I said earlier, it's always tricky moving systems. But if you do have a scalable solution, ideally cloud-based, ideally where you can set up those individual branches and sites, set those up with individual branding if that's the route that you want to go down. These all need to be options that are available for you within your solution. And then on the agent that is potentially looking to sell within the next few years, that reporting, I think the reporting side is most vital there, because you do need to provide, as we talked about earlier, proof that you are a business worth being bought at the end of the day, that you have the portfolio to justify the sale of your business, that you've got the contacts, the records, and having all this information off your system on phones, on notepads. It's not going to be useful in that regard, because this can be something that's easily presentable, whether that's in a meeting or just again using a cloud-based solution. That can just be something you can show someone in a coffee shop and start the conversation from there.
So Michael, if I'm an agent watching this thinking these two guys are talking real sense, and I could do with a bit of that in my business, but I've not looked after the records in the same way, the answer to them presumably is it's not too late. That if they are thinking of getting themselves into that M&A space, whether it's on the buying end of it or it is actually on the selling end of it, they could have a sit down with you guys, and presumably you start to assess what they need to move over into a clean vehicle effectively, and how long it'll take for that reporting to sort of get up and running and be accessible. So where does everything start? Is it to simply sort of book a call with you to open that cupboard and shake some of those skeletons out?
Yeah, so I think that's a good way of putting it. I think it would start with a phone call just to understand the business, what they're looking to achieve. I do stress to people it is a project. It does require resource on your side to move over systems. But I think as you mentioned, I think you used the word clean slate, and that's exactly how we describe it to people moving over. Because sometimes you might want to look at a data migration where you move your data from one system to another, or you might want to look at it as a chance. All right, from this date we're going to start from scratch and we're going to move over to MRI, and our data is going to be clean, our processes are going to be this. Because also sometimes where people fall into problems is if you've been using a solution for the last 10 to 15 years, people haven't been trained, they're going through shortcuts, they're not necessarily entering everything into the system. If we can come in and show you a brand new way of working, then we can just introduce that process, show that we can make life easier, and it's vital to the reporting side. Obviously the senior leadership team are going to want that, but as I mentioned, it's important that you get buy-in from the people who are on the actual the front end side. So something that we look at as well is actually meeting the agents, meeting them in person, going to their office, understanding a bit more about them as an organization. Obviously we're doing this online. It's we both know the importance of meeting people in person and building that relationship, and it works the same with your tech provider. You never really understand a business until you've actually set foot in their office,
got in there and looked at how they work, and there's lots of different moving parts, and it's a much more, I suppose, relaxed discussion in some ways. You always feel sort of rushed online, but if you can take some time to sort of absorb what makes their business special. Every estate agency business is similar in most ways, but in some ways have their unique bits, and I think that's what you want to get to, isn't it? And see how you can best sort of mirror those needs within the system that you're migrating them across to. Michael, thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, great to speak to you again, David, and look forward to the next one.